By definition, marketing is the process of developing, promoting, and distributing goods and services to satisfy the customer's wants and needs. But to me, marketing is so much more than that, and I'm so excited to share my experiences through this Capstone project with all of you. So a little bit of background information on me. My name is Maddie Knice, and I have been involved in marketing classes as well as our school's DECA chapter, which is a marketing club here at Massick, for the past 3 years. So I've always had an interest in marketing, and I've always been exposed to it. What I wanted to do was take the knowledge I learned in the textbook and expand upon it and see how people who actually do this as a career work at it. And so that made the topic selection process a lot easier for me because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So moving on from that, choosing my mentor, I actually worked with a father of one of my friends, which made it very easy to select him. He was very on board with helping me through this project, which was great. His name was David Morgart, and he grew up in a very small town in Pennsylvania called Windber. This is interesting because although where he grew up was a very small town, he took it with him throughout his whole entire life. For example, he used where he lived in a lot of examples when discussing marketing concepts with me. He started off by saying that where he lived there was these small pubs, like an Irish pub, a Greek pub, and an Italian pub, where the pub would actually market towards the people of that different nationality, which I thought was very interesting because he took what he knew from his hometown and applied it in what he was teaching me, which I enjoyed. So moving on to his college experience, he started off at the University of Pittsburgh, where he earned his bachelor's in business economics, moved on to University of Michigan, where he earned his master's in marketing, and finished at Boston College, where he earned his master's in finance. So he's a very intelligent man, which made it great to work with him because he had a lot to say and was also very intellectual, so our conversations were great. Moving on, for his past work experience, he started off at Johnson & Johnson, where he was a lower marketing position, but still got to grasp everything that marketing encompasses. Moving on, he went to Coleman, where he was head of marketing and sales, and finished at Edgewell Personal Care in Shelton, Connecticut, where I completed my capstone, and he is head of marketing and sales there as well. So going into my field work, Mr. Morgart started off with handing me an information packet. It was basically just a PowerPoint presentation printed out of different tips, tricks, and concepts, all things relating to marketing. And in the beginning of that, he started off by differentiating insight versus findings in marketing and how findings are the factual information behind a consumer and why they do things, whereas insight is the why behind them, why they're making these decisions and why they're making these choices, which I thought was interesting because I never really thought about the insight behind consumer decisions. Moving on, he gave me a homework assignment after one of our fieldwork days, and it was to go home and think over the next week about a product I thought could benefit the world today. And on my drive home from Edgewell Personal Care, I saw someone riding a bike, and I thought, wow, how do people who ride bikes and are also frequent travelers, how do they manage to do this? Because there's a lot of heavy equipment when it comes to biking, these big bulky bikes and the helmets. So with that, I came up with the idea of a retractable bicycle helmet, something that folds into itself and makes it very compact to use. And I told this idea to Mr. Morgart, and he said to keep it in the back of my mind and that we'd be using it later, which we did. Moving on from that, in the beginning of my fieldwork, we also met with all the Edgewell staff, which they're a very large and diverse group of people who are all very passionate about their jobs, and you can tell how driven they are, which is very cool to me because I hope that I can take that away in my future career in marketing and be able to love my job as much as I saw that they did. Moving on into fieldwork, Mr. Morgart and I started talking about career paths. And with that, I thought it was interesting because in my research prior to the Capstone project, I found an article, Marketing versus Marketing Management and the differences between the two, and how in marketing you could be focused on a single project, something that you and your team is focusing on by themselves, whereas in marketing management you're more overseeing a group of people in their individual projects. So it just depends on your preference and how you want to take that leadership role and apply it in the workplace. With that, I actually had my own individual meeting with a brand manager. Her name is Christina Sykes. She was definitely my favorite person to work with, besides Mr. Morgart, of course, throughout the whole process. She actually works with Edgewell's brand of Wet Ones, the hand wipe, and she's partnering with Universal Studios in the movie Despicable Me to put the minions from that movie on all of the Wet Ones canisters coming very soon, which is a really cool idea, and she gave me her whole marketing plan. She'll be from A to Z, everything that's involved in it, and she was very, very passionate about it, which was great to take away from the whole experience. And she explained her career in brand management and how she got that far, which is really great to hear from me. Following that, I also had an individual meeting with Wendy Lowe, head of category development at Edgewell. She explained to me the product life cycle and how the product stays on the shelf and how you want your product at eye level with the majority of consumers who are purchasing the product, which is very different and sort of out of the box for me because I've never focused on that type of marketing. I never looked at the product life cycle and shelf time for different products, and I realized how important it is to have a great relationship with your wholesalers and retailers because those are the people who are going to be giving you that shelf space in return. Continuing on, I met with an advertising consultant. Her name is Kathleen Shanahan, a very, very intelligent woman who has worked at the company for 12 years, so she is very familiar with the ins and outs of the company. She worked a lot with commercial development, which was interesting. In my research, I came across another article on digital marketing and how the millennial generation is so involved in social media and they're always online, and that digital marketing really appeals to them. And she expanded upon this with me and talked about commercial development and actually showed me a 15-second spot, as they're called, of a commercial going from the write-up of what it's going to be into the animation, into what we see on TV for Schick Intuition razors, which is what I'll show you right now, this 15-second finished commercial that I got to see from start to end. So, back on that.
Schick Intuition with no need for shave gel. Lather and shave in one simple step because every second counts. Schick Intuition with moisturizing ribbons for your skin.
Alright, so like I was saying, as you can see from that commercial, although it's really short and only 15 seconds long, there is so much that goes into it. They changed all things from the color of the razor that was shown in the commercial, the color of the actress's hair, what the text message at the beginning said, and they did this all through focus groups, so they would have their target market of people who would usually purchase this type of product go through, look at the commercial, and analyze it based on all different things, which is really awesome that I got to see that. Now finally, what encompassed my learning stretch for me definitely was what happened towards the end of my fieldwork, which is when Mr. Morhart sat me down and he said, "Okay, Maddie, it's time for you to create your own creative brief." Something I actually have for all of you guys right now. This is what I did at the end of my fieldwork. Let's run this over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with my creative brief, he said that I basically had to take all of the knowledge that I've learned from the experiences that I've taken away from my fieldwork hours and use it to make my own creative brief for my product of the retractable helmet. So that's where it came back into play. And I started off by sitting in front of a blank Word document and having no idea what I was supposed to write. But then through the help of the three people I mentioned earlier, as well as my mentor, Mr. Morgar, they helped me through it and they made me realize that I took a great deal of information away from this project. I learned so much about myself in the workplace and myself as a student, and I used that to create this creative brief. I knew that I had to overcome a challenge for myself, which is being able to have a sufficient amount of information in just a small piece of the creative brief, because it's only supposed to be 1 page long, and I'm that student when you're asked to write a 3-page essay, I'll give you 12 pages, and that's a very big struggle that I have. But I was able to overcome that problem and create a very successful creative brief, which I then took and presented to the Edgewell staff, which was very interesting. And before that, I read an article about product launches and how this relates to what I was doing with the creative brief and how you need to be effective, short, sweet, and to the point, which is exactly what I did. Moving on from that, my growth was also very evident through this project. I learned a lot about problem solving, like I said before, as well as I strengthened my communication ability in a business setting. I had never been in a setting like I was before at Edgewell, and it was very cool for me to be able to strengthen my knowledge and communication abilities with that. And finishing off, for my future implications, I hope to earn a degree in marketing and attend business school at either Bentley University or College of Charleston. And I also hope to one day become a brand manager because, like I was saying with the Wet Ones campaign with Universal Studios, it was very interesting to me to learn all about that. And I thank this project for everything it has given me, all of my experiences and what I learned, and I'm so grateful that I had the experience to do this. So thank you all for listening, and does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, I have kind of a comment on top of a question, more than a question. You gave the definition of marketing, which is textbook and true.
Yes.
But I recall when I took a managerial marketing course, and the professor added to that definition not only the wants and needs of consumers, but the wants and needs they don't even know.
Yeah, definitely. The
So-
benefits behind what's actually the tangible good or service.
So
Yeah,
how do you make that identification and, focus groups and things like that help out with that?
definitely.
So it's, and I really like the way you implanted your mentor's background information.
Mhm.
Do you think that marketing also requires someone to not just be creative but innovative?
Definitely. Innovation is a very large part of marketing because people like what's new. People like to see what's coming out and new in the world with products. For example, if you take Apple, a company who is so successful, it's because they're always producing new products. And innovation is a huge part of that, creating something that people haven't really seen before and then making it appeal to those people because it has a need and a want that they didn't think they needed before.
So a lot of psychology is involved here.
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
Especially like when you mentioned the eye level shelf and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they found that women will reach up and reach down, men just want to reach out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot that goes into it. Psychology definitely is a big part because these people are making these choices and based off of what they need or what they think they need, and it's all based on psychology and why they're making these choices. Like I said with insight before, that's a great deal of what has to do with it as well.
Did your previous knowledge, like the classes that you've taken at Massey, did that help you at all? Were you surprised to have some prior knowledge going in? Did you notice the connection between school and the real world?
Yeah, even Mr. Morgart said I had a pretty good understanding of the basics of marketing and the concepts. Like I said, I have been in marketing. This is my what people are soon. And I've never really seen it like that. I've always taken scenarios of me building something or creating something that never actually was created. It was just the thought process behind it, and being able to see it in the real world with these people at Edgewell was great for me. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you
you
so,
guys.
so much.
Thank you.